Welcome to Beerstories from Beerstory Brewhouse. I've brewed what I think is a perfect DIPA with all the cheat codes you can find. Check out the grain to glass video. Before I go into the recipe for this beer, I want to talk a little bit about equipment, because it's really hard to do this with just any setup. I really recommend you to get a tank where you can pull out the hops from beneath, and also get a hop dropper or hop bong so you can add your hops oxygen free and pull them out from the bottom, again under pressure, oxygen free. The slightest oxygen in this beer, and we're talking parts per billion, will ruin the beer. So if we haven't have a setup where you can actually do this oxygen free and pull the hops after 2 days, I wouldn't recommend you to brew this beer. You can use magnets. I've done that before. It's a bit of a hassle, but it can be done if you're pretty precise and you can actually raise and lower the hops with magnets. It's not easy, but it can be done. So yeah, but I really recommend you to get a setup with a hop bong so you can just drop all the hops in and you can pull it from the bottom. So I brewed one of these earlier where I didn't use flaked oats, and I didn't use flaked oats because there's a high risk of oxidation because of the manganese in the flaked oats. It will also give it a shorter shelf life if I use flaked oats. If there is just above 15 parts per billion of oxygen in the beer, it will ruin the beer faster. This time, and that beer was great. Yeah, it was really great actually. I'd used chit malt instead of flaked oats. But I wanted to see if I'd brew something similar and added oats to it. How juicy would I be able to get it? And I tell you, this is so juicy. This is, it's out of this world juicy, tropical, everything. Yeah, it's just a wonderful beer. The recipe is for 25 liters or 6.5 gallons. Boil time 30 minutes. ABV is 8%. Everything I'm talking about here is right in this book from Scott Janis, The New IPA. So it's no secrets, but it's all scientific, proven, or what you want to call it. This is it's a great scientific guide to hop aroma and flavor, just like it says here on the cover. And everything I got from this book I put into this beer. So in my eyes, this is the perfect DIPA. Of course, you can change the hops, and you will make a different beer. Maybe you can find some hops that work better, but this is just amazing. As you can see here, it's 8% ABV, and I think it's important that DIPA has that, because then it has enough sugar, it has enough alcohol to fully back up all those hops. So that's really important, that you can't really make it lower than that, otherwise it won't be that juicy and tropical. Original gravity 1080. Final gravity, this is really important. It has to be around 1020, because that leaves enough sweetness to back up all those hops and also to make it bitter, pretty bitter. Yes, you can see it's 71 IBUs. But that doesn't feel that strong because there's so much sugar left. So it is not really bitter. You can also see the BU to GU ratio is pretty low actually for an American double IPA. So this is not a bitter beer. It's just balanced, if you can say that about a heavily saturated DIPA. So so this is pretty important, that the final gravity is 1020. The color, I just want it so pale and yellow as possible. So that's about 9. That's the palest I can make him. As I said, IBU 71, BU to GU ratio, bitterness unit to gravity units. So we actually, with the bitterness unit to gravity unit, we're actually calculating the perceived bitterness, because if the bitterness unit to gravity unit is higher, that means that there's more bitterness compared to sugar, and then will taste more bitter. And as you can see here, it's pretty low compared to the scale. So this is not it's a bit sweet beer to back up the tropical, but it's still very balanced and not bitter. So that was the vitals for the beer. The fermentables is 57% extra pale premium pilsner from Weiermann. Extra pale because I want it so yellow as possible. Then it's 12% chit malt. Chit malt is a great malt for hazies because it actually makes the beer more hazy, gives a better foam, it gives it more body. And that's why you can also actually leave out the oats when you're using chit malt, because it does some of the same things. 12% dextrin malts, just to give it a higher final gravity and give it more body as well. 12% wheat and 6% flaked oats. So the flaked oats, it's really important that you don't get any oxygen in here, because and also use mash hops, because mash hops will actually make a complex reaction with some of the manganese in the kettle when you're mashing, so they can't oxidize down the line. So that will actually prevent it from oxidizing down the line. So that's why we use mash hops right here. Just use whatever you got. They don't add flavor. They don't really add that much bitterness. So just use whatever you have. For bittering, I'm boiling it 30 minutes. Because I don't want anything to boil off here. Yeah, so I'm just boiling for 30 minutes. 25 grams or 23 IBUs of Headertown Magnum. And then with 10 minutes left of the boil, 30 grams of Citra or 13 IBUs. Also 20 grams of Mosaic or 9 IBUs. Then for hop stand, 50 grams of Citra, 50 grams of Mosaic, 50 grams of Simcoe. Simcoe is a great one to actually use in a hop stand, because you'll get more free thiols in your beer. Yeah, so that's actually a really great one to get in the whirlpool. You can read all about it in here. And then this is really, really important. You have to be able to only have all the dry hop in the beer for 2 days, not more than 2 days. And also, to avoid hop creep, I recommend you to crash under pressure down to about 10 degrees Celsius and add your dry hops there. 2 days, or actually maybe start crashing already after 24 hours. So after 48 hours, all the hops will be crashed and you can pull them out from the bottom. So 2 days of dry hops, not more than that. Otherwise you will get too many polyphenols, you will get too many plant matter in your beer, and and that will just make the beer astringent and harsh, and we don't want that in this kind of beer. We just want tropical, juicy, refreshing flavors. You have to wait to dry hop to day 7 or when fermentation is over. That will give the most haze to your beer. Also, if you leave dry hops in for more than 3 days, it will ruin your head retention. As you can see here, this has been out now for 20 minutes more, 30 minutes. It still has a good head. And for the dry hop, I have 100 grams of Cryo Mosaic, 100 grams of Rivaca, 75 grams of Citra Cryo, and just normal Citra 70 grams. And I can actually show you here. I'm using a hop control. It's a cheap, excellent tool to really compare hops and find out what they do. I love this this program. I just typed in Rivaca, Citra, and Mosaic, so you can see here what kind of flavors they bring. So they overlap, but they also bring some things new to the table, all of them. So with this dry hop, we'll get a kind of a floral, berry, tropical, citrusy flavor. And doesn't that sound good? It is good, I promise you. So that's why I chose these kind of hops. You could also, instead of the Citra, go with a Moteca. It will be almost the same. So you could do that as well. But the Citra is, for me anyway, easier to get hold of. So that's why I'm using that. Yeah, that was it for fermentables and hops. 4 packages of Lallemand New England is what I used, and I fermented it at 19 degrees Celsius for 6 to 7 days until it was done fermenting. And then I ramped up the temperature for just as many days at least to get all the diacetyl out. And after that, I added my dry hops, because then I started to crash it, and then I added dry hops. I could actually just write it in here for you. Temp, 10 degrees Celsius, and then call it dry hop. And that's only for 2 days. And I can also type in here that I crashed it also for a couple of days. So this is my fermentation profile, and I think it's perfect. You could use other yeast than the New England one from Lallemand. You could use Verdant IPA. I used that before. It's a great yeast. It will give more apricot melon and some, compared to this New England, that will give more citrusy and other tropical flavors. They are similar yeast, but different. 4 packages. It's really, really, really important that you use enough yeast. Otherwise, you will get fusel alcohols. And that will make this beer boozy and just not very pleasant. This beer is not boozy at all. It's just so smooth and perfect in any way. So use enough yeast and let it rest. I forgot about the mash schedule here. 67 degrees Celsius for 1 hour, and then mash out at 68 degrees Celsius. It's a pretty high mash temperature, but that's because I want the final gravity to end up just around 1020. And down here we have the water profile. The most important thing here is to double up the chloride compared to sulfate. Calcium is also pretty important because that's nutrient for the yeast. So kind of hit this profile and you'll be good. Yeah, and I guess that was it. Also I use ascorbic acid in the mash, just 1 gram. Ascorbic acid in the mash will also do the same as the mash hops and actually make a reaction with some of the components that can oxidize down the line and prevent them to oxidize. So it'll give it a longer shelf life. and I think that's pretty important. I also used yeast nutrients, and I used ascorbic acid again along with the dry hops. You can, I don't think it's necessary because there's no astringency whatsoever in this beer. But if you feel like, if you have a bit of astringency, you can use gelatin, not to clear the beer, it won't get clear at all, but to pull out some of the polyphenols that will give that astringency. But there's no hop burn or anything in this beer, so it's not necessary. I guess that was it. That was the recipe. Yeah, so when you look at this beer, it just has a beautiful yellow color and a white foam, a thick foam, and it keeps on going for a long time. And it's so tropical. It's mango, it's pineapple, citrus. Oh, and some other peach or some more sweet stone fruit. It just smells fantastic. All the flavors they carry on, all the aromas carry on into the all the aromas they carry on into the flavor. It's just a juicy, balanced, tropical hop bomb that finishes off a little bit dry, grapefruity. It's not bitter, but just finishes off, and you're left with this kind of dry, a little bit bitter grapefruity feel in your mouth. So you just want to drink more because your saliva is starting to work, and it's awesome. Compared to the last one I made, this is more juicy. This is about a month old and it hasn't oxidized yet. So I guess it works with the mash hops and the ascorbic acid in the mash to prevent oxidation down the line, because a keg will never be oxygen free. No matter what you do, the oxygen can actually get in through the O-rings, even though it's under pressure. But it's a fantastic beer. This is the perfect recipe for a DIPA. You can always change out the hops, the malt bill, don't touch it at all. If you want a different beer, switch out some of the hops, add more hops if you can. This is pretty saturated, but I know the big American breweries, they use up to 30 grams per liter of dry hop. This is only 14, but then some of it is cryo, so it kind of equals 20 grams per liter. And this is hop saturated. It is. You can smell it. It's in the aroma, it's in the flavor, it's in the mouthfeel. It is a saturated beer, definitely. But of course you can go higher. That will make it better. Maybe I'll do that next time and see how high I can go. With my new setup here, I should be able to go higher than this one. So maybe I'll do that. I guess that was it. If you have any questions, please write to me. You can write it in the comment as well. Find me on beerstories.dk or my Instagram and Facebook and so on. Other than that, just have a happy brewing out there.